Hey guys, I wanted to go over the most important document that you're going to go through during your home purchase or home sale. Okay, so as a buyer, you're going to see this, as a seller, you're going to see this. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't read this. So even though this first page is for the buyers, I still suggest that the seller read it as well. So the purchase agreement is a total of 10 pages. However, one of the pages is basically for additional terms and conditions. As you can see, it doesn't really have too much information on it. So to me, it's still a total of 9. But a lot of agents were creating addendums to include all the information in here. Um, but with that said, you're going to notice that there's numbers in bold print. So there's 9 sections to the purchase agreement. I want to make it more digestible and less overwhelming. So basically, I'm going to create one video per section so that you can digest it easily. If you are already in the process and feel like your real estate agent isn't really explaining this to you, watch through my videos. I'm going to explain it thoroughly. You might be able to ask your real estate agent some questions that they may be better able to answer once you know what you're actually looking at. So, if you're a buyer or a seller, I suggest that you pay attention to the document updated in October 2022. The reason why I suggest that is because prior to October 22, there was a change in which in before you were able, the seller had to transfer everything and everything had to function. For example, the mechanical system, the electrical system, plumbing, and all of that, all of those things had to function. However, now you're going to notice that basically there's no more warranties anymore. The properties transfer as is. And this is going to be covered on section 5. Okay, so basically, after that section, that's probably going to be a really short video, but after that section, you have your due diligence. This is going to be one of the most important videos, so I highly suggest that you keep an eye out for the due diligence video because I'm going to go over all the inspections that you should make, all the indemnifications that you're signing up for when you're signing this agreement, and all of the things that you should be looking at and reviewing while you are in this part of the transaction. I'd like you to pay more attention to this before even starting your search so that you're well educated as to what you have to do, because a lot of people get really overwhelmed when they're going through all of this, especially because they're handing over all of the documents to the lender and we're going through the inspections, and sometimes they're working in tandem with the purchase. So they get very overwhelmed and they rely on us, the real estate agent, very heavily to do all of this homework for you. And you're going to notice on the purchase agreement, there are several places where the real estate agent and the brokerage are basically indemnified for not having the ability, the capacity, or the knowledge to conduct all of the inspections for you. Basically, we're just limited to provide you with our referrals to home inspectors and AC inspectors, mold inspectors, and whatnot, and to recommend that you actually conduct those inspections. And most of the time, we are the ones that go in attendance to the inspections. However, that does not mean that we're doing absolutely every single thing that is very important to you. And you cannot hold us liable for that, because in several parts of the purchase agreement, it states that it is your responsibility as a buyer. So that's why I want you to kind of focus more on this document so that you are aware that this document indemnifies the real estate agent and the brokerage several times of this responsibility. Even if I say, I'm going to make this as easy for you and I'm going to make this as understandable for you, either way, I'm still indemnified from that responsibility because I am not a home inspector. I am not part of a legal department. I'm not an appraiser. I am not an assessor, so on and so forth. So please pay attention to this because I know most people don't read it. At least follow with me. follow along with me as we read this. So, attention buyer, you're entering into a legally binding agreement. Read the entire contract before you sign it. And I tell this to my buyers so many times. I even send videos. That is my standard of practice. You should be receiving a video from me explaining this purchase agreement, or if we sit together, I'm going to be explaining it to you. But usually I like to send the explanation of the video as well, because of the fact that it is my standard of practice, and because of the fact that I feel like people do not read, and that it's a lot more easily digestible in a video format. It's kind of as if you were sitting right across from me, if you are from out of state. That's why I like to read these to you. So you're going to review the residential seller's property disclosure statement. What that is it's not something that is contractual. It doesn't have to be 100% true either. But basically, this is something that's going to point out to you what type of inspections you want to conduct, and what the seller is stating that they did to the property, or that they have knowledge about the property. Sometimes investors say that they're not going to provide this disclosure statement, which is, it's kind of BS, to be honest with you, because if an investor just flipped the property, they have a lot of knowledge of what they actually replaced. Like if they painted, if they replaced the AC, or did anything with the plumbing, or moved any electric items around, they should have knowledge of that. But a lot of people, especially in a seller's market, they get away with saying that they're not going to supply the seller property disclosure statement. Review the inspection paragraph. Again, I'm going to be creating a video on that section, because it is very, very, very important. This was revised from previous purchase agreements, because before it didn't have the general home inspector. It basically broke down all the other inspectors, but now it has been added. The general home inspector, a lot of people sometimes they say, oh, he didn't catch this or he didn't catch that. No, you didn't read the inspection thoroughly, because a lot of times the home inspector will state, for example, they'll state the age of the AC, and they'll write on the bottom, with fine print, that they recommend that you hire an HVAC technician to give you a better to give you a better understanding as to the quality, or the way the unit is functioning. Heating and cooling, mold inspection, pest inspection, pool inspection. You're going to notice that the general home inspector usually points out what their findings are, but they also tell you hire the expert, because I am not the expert. I'm just showing you my findings. I'm just telling you the age of these items. I'm just telling you if something is leaking. I'm just telling you if an electric outlet is leaking or not, or if the electric panel is labeled, or whatever it may be. But they're always going to point out what they see, and they're going to recommend that you hire the professional if you want further information. So basically, if in the inspection reports, they're also removing their own liability from from that responsibility. So sometimes buyers, they buy a house, they don't read the purchase agreement, they don't read the inspections, and a year later something pops up, and somebody professional says, oh, didn't your home inspector say this, or didn't your realtor point this out? And we have an angry buyer trying to point fingers, because usually it comes in a moment in time where things are tough, and somebody always wants to find somebody to blame. So again, make yourself responsible for all of this, and be educated, and pay attention to what you are receiving and read it. That is your responsibility. Confirm your ability to obtain insurance and insurability of the property during the inspection period with your insurance agent. A lot of times, you can shop this. You can shop the insurance, and you can see what the insurance covers and whatnot. But a lot of people, they let the lender do this for them, and many times the lender will get the best insurance possible for the property, and what covers everything that needs to be covered for the mortgage. But sometimes it might not cover everything that you want. So just keep in mind that you have to make sure that the home is actually insurable, and it is best for you to actually shop around for insurance and not just rely on the lender to get this information for you. The lender is going to provide that service to you, so that because they know that you're probably going to be overwhelmed, and they know that you're probably not going to shop around and investigate. But if you're one of those type of people that likes to do their research, I highly recommend that you start investigating home insurance policies and what they cover and what they don't cover and what the mortgage actually requires to be covered so that you can get that done as soon as possible. As soon as you get an offer accepted, you have to apply for your home loan. That means that your interest rate is going to be locked and it's not going to be going up. And well, I mean, it can go down prior to closing, but that way it's not going to go up any further. So you're going to have to provide a lot of documentation to the lender. And a lot of people don't like that. I personally don't like that. I felt that when I purchased my house, that was the most overwhelming part or aspect of the transaction to myself is I am self-employed. So my paperwork is a little bit different than somebody that has W-2s, but there's documentation involved and the lender does ask for your bank statements on a regular basis. They do ask to pull your credit. They do ask, for a lot of other items that I may not be seeing. For example, like if you have a retirement account or if you have any other assets, the lender is going to ask for paperwork for that. So make sure that you apply for that and also make sure that if we have a 30-day deadline or a 45 deadline, that 5 days prior to that, your lender has finalized everything in the loan. Because if the lender has not gotten to that date, what can happen is the seller may be upset because the loan has not been finalized and we haven't asked for an extension. So what they can do is they can cure. Basically, they can give us a notification saying, hey, you have 3 days to get the loan done and finalized, or I can cancel this and I can keep your earnest money. We don't want you to get there. When would a seller do this? If you're a seller looking at this video, the seller typically does this if they have a better offer on hand, if they have a better backup offer, and the backup offer is still insisting that they are still willing to purchase. And maybe you don't feel like the real estate agent is being communicative or that the lender is being communicative, and you don't know or have any idea where the loan is at. Then we're going to have the read the title commitment within 5 days of receipt. So basically, you should be in communication with the title company. Usually, when I get an accepted offer, I send this out to the title company. The title company sends us some information asking, for a lot of buyer information, how they want to take title, so on and so forth. And we should be receiving the title commitment within 5 days of receipt. Usually, they send this to me as well, and I send it to you. But sometimes this documents, they get encrypted. So anything that you're receiving for the title company, you should be paying attention to. And you should be asking a lot of questions. I can kind of explain the title commitment to you, but the best person to ask questions in terms of the title commitment to is your escrow officer. So be in communication with them. Read the CCNRs and all governing documents within 5 days of receipt, especially if the home is in a homeowners association. Sometimes we get homeowners that get upset because of the parking situation or because they're going to get the little letters from the HOA stating that they can't have like the Christmas lights throughout the entire year, or maybe they can't have a specific pot or whatever, or maybe paint color. Maybe you want to paint your home purple and you can't because the HOA doesn't let you. So if the home is in an HOA, you need to read the CCNRs and governing documents. I will obviously point that out to you. Conduct a thorough pre-closing walkthrough. If the property is unacceptable, you need to speak up. After the closing may be too late. And I repeat that after the closing, there's no returns, there's no refunds in real estate. When you buy a house, that's it. You're stuck with the property. So if there's something that you're not happy with, you have to speak up. You can't be afraid of not being able to close if you don't speak up and the seller is not being cooperative with you. You have to do this prior to closing because you don't want to be stuck with a property that you're not happy with, right? So you are urged to consult with an attorney, inspectors, and experts in your choice of the area of interest or concern in the transaction. So be cautious about verbal representations if you're working with a for sale by owner. Don't take their word for everything. Put it in writing. Advertising claims as well. If you've seen something advertised on MLS and you want it, put it in writing. Any information contained in a listing, and verify anything important to you. And warning: wire transfer fraud. Beware of instructions via email. So anytime that you get any instructions from the title company, pick up the phone, call them and ask, hey, did you send this? Is this accurate? and they will say yes or no, because there is a lot of wire fraud, unfortunately, and it has affected a lot of real estate agents and a lot of people that have their own real estate. So I'm going to delete this information, but basically the first page in the first section of the property, explains everything. It's going to explain the buyer, the seller, and it's going to tell you that they agree to sell the property. It's going to give you the premises address, city, legal description. I'm the one that's going to pull up all of that information so that we can hand it over to the insurance, to the title company. Here on section 1C, you're gonna say what you are actually offering. Usually the earnest money is 1% of what you're offering, or a little bit less. That's not set in stone. That's just a negotiation tactic that most of us real estate agents use. Because sometimes, for example, somebody that wants to flip a house, they'll say $10 earnest money, and the seller might get offended. They might feel like the buyer doesn't have any skin in the game. Why would they remove the property off of the market for such a low earnest money? In a competitive market, I highly suggest maybe increasing the earnest money if you have that amount, because it makes your offer stronger. In these following lines, we're going to do any additional down payment that is required. So if you have a conventional loan and we have to do 20% down payment, that's going to be in addition to the earnest money. And sometimes the earnest money can be applied towards the down payment, or it can be applied towards the closing costs, which is basically the same thing. Then earnest money isn't going to be in the form of a personal check or a wire transfer. Nowadays, I've seen a lot of wire transfers. So I'm going to select whatever you tell me is appropriate. And we're going to do it to the escrow company. We don't really do anything to the broker trust account anymore. So I'm not quite sure why this is still there. But and all real estate is different. No transaction is ever the same. And if this is an all cash sale, here's where a lot of buyers that I work with that want to purchase with cash, they start getting offended. We need a letter of credit or source of funds from the financial institution documenting the availability of funds to close escrow. Okay. And sometimes when I ask a buyer to give me proof of funds, they feel offended. They're like, money is not an object. I don't care if it's not an object. The seller needs some sort of commitment from you, or some sort of proof that you have it. I may trust you, the seller might not, the seller's agent might not, the seller's agent will definitely not tell the seller to accept an offer that does not have some sort of proof of funds. And usually what we get is sometimes we get the business bank statement that does not have the buyer's name. So the difference between the business bank statement and the buyer's name always causes a little bit of confusion. So at the end of the day, there's got to be something that ties the business to the buyer and that is telling us that the business and the buyer can purchase this property. Okay, so please don't get offended when we ask for this. It is a standard of practice. It is absolutely necessary, and it gives power to your offer. Close of escrow. We're going to determine what the close of escrow is when we're placing the offer. Usually we count if there's any holidays in between, but it should be 30 days, 30 calendar days, not business days. Sometimes, depending on how the market is, sometimes the lenders need 45 days. So we will get to that when the time arrives, right? So buyer shall deliver escrow company a cashier's check, wire funds, or immediately available funds to pay any down payment, additional deposits, or buyer closing costs, and instruct the lender, if applicable, to deliver immediately available funds to the escrow company in a sufficient amount and in sufficient time to allow for close of escrow to occur on the close of escrow date. Okay. Possession. Obviously, close of escrow is when you get the keys. We have to wait until they say that the property has been recorded to receive those keys. And Section 1F is any addenda incorporated. Are there any additional clauses? Do you have a buyer contingency? Is there a well in the property? Is there an HOA? Is the property older than 1978? There would be a lead-based paint disclosure agreement. Is there a loan assumption? Is there an on-site wastewater treatment facility? So basically, in other words, a septic. Is this a seller finance? Is this a short sale? Is there solar on the property, or any other thing that we might have to add an addenda for? 1G talks about all the fixtures and the personal properties. I'm not going to go over this because basically it's anything that's nailed onto the walls. A lot of people fight over chandeliers, they fight over curtain rods, they fight over, some things, mirrors, for example. If it's attached to the wall, it should convey with the property. So if you see something that you want to convey with the property, like a fan or a chandelier or something like that, and you don't see it specified on this section, let's write it down and other personally not otherwise advertise, so that we can make sure that the seller doesn't take it when they leave. Any additional existing personal property included in the sale. You're going to notice this a lot, that sellers tend to take the refrigerator, they tend to take the washer and dryer. So if you want it, we have to specify it here. And not only that, but we have to specify the color, the make, and the model, so that they don't just leave something there if we didn't specify what it was. Is there an above ground spa and hot tub? Do you want it? Most of the time, it is so massive and heavy that some of the sellers don't take it. However, some of those sellers know what the expense was, so they're willing to take it and they are willing to pay for the transfer. So if you see a spa or a hot tub, make sure to write it out if you want to keep it. And any additional existing property included shall not be considered part of the premises and shall be transferred with no monetary value and free and clear of liens and encumbrances. You're going to notice that there are some listings that are selling the furnishings there. We have to do a separate bill of sale that cannot be included in this, and that cannot be included in the financing aspect of it because it won't make a property appraise. So any leased items not included in the sale, seller shall deliver notice of all leased items. So, for example, if the solar panels are leased, the seller has to give us notice and they have to provide all of the information so that we can make sure that there can be a transfer, so on and so forth. If this is an all cash sale, Section 2 does not apply. Okay, so that concludes this video for Section 1. I'm already at 22 minutes, which is really long. It shouldn't take this long. But again, Section 1 is easily digestible because it's basically all of the information to what you're offering, how much earnest money you're doing, what type of loan you're going to get, where is the down payment applied to, what type of transfer you're going to do, escrow company, close of escrow, possession date, any addenda incorporated, and what you want to transfer with the property. That basically summarizes Section 1. My next video is going to be talking about financing and what that entails. And I'll also touch base a little bit on the cash portion of it. So I hope this video kind of helps breaks down somewhat of the purchase agreement. And I hope that you're watching this prior to placing in their offers so that you're well informed and know what questions to ask, and also know what to review when I type this down. Am I spelling your name properly? Am I spelling your spouse's name properly? Is there going to be anybody else taking title? And if you are the seller, is your name and your spouse's name, or your name and anybody and any other owner's name spelled properly? Is the legal description written properly? Are you going to be agreeing on these numbers, so on and so forth? Do you need a different close of escrow? Anything that might be important to you. Also, as a seller, you should be reviewing this section, numbers 55 to 62, if you want to take the refrigerator and the washer and dryer, and this is and this is checked. You're going to have to counter that and tell them, no, I'm taking the refrigerator and I'm taking the washer and dryer, right? So pay attention to this because we are human. Mistakes can be made. So I hope that helps, and I'll see you on the next video.